The following program is brought to you by the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, assuring solid returns from solid investment in early childhood development.
Welcome to the People of Michigan's Great Start Initiative. I'm Christy McDonald. I'd like to thank you for joining me. Michigan's Great Start Initiative is aimed at making Michigan the best place in the country to raise a young child and prepare all children for learning and life through implementation of a comprehensive and coordinated early childhood system. Right now, we want to take a look at the people and the groups behind this important effort, starting with three key organizations, all working in different ways, yet also working together to make Great Start a reality. Marvin McKinney, the founding chairman of the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, along with Chief Executive Officer Judy Samuelson, join me today to talk about the Investment Corporation. Marvin, Judy, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Marvin, let me start. You were in the ground floor. You were part of the two early initiatives of the Ready to Succeed group and the initial Early Childhood Investment Corporation. How did you feel when you heard Governor Granholm announce in her State of the State in 2003 that Great Start was going to be an initiative?
Well, I felt very, very excited because this issue, even though we did have the Ready to Succeed group and the Early Childhood group, it really started in the late 60s with the seminal study at HighScope. And so groups have been meeting for the last 40 years, and we have been trying to approach government and governors for a long time. And lo and behold, the Ready to Succeed group created a white paper for the governor that she used in her campaign, and we were hoping that somehow it would get mentioned. And when it did get mentioned, we said this is a new beginning for early childhood development in the state of Michigan.
So it had taken all of those years to get to that point. So finally the corporation had its first meeting in 2005. You want to give us an idea of what went on at that meeting?
Well, yeah, I think that meeting in 2005 came as a result of so much work that had been done in early childhood, as well as so much that had been done in terms of brain development. And so people began to see that, yes, early childhood can make a difference. And so at that first meeting, we were just very excited, and we didn't even know who was on first base. So at the first meeting, we tried to figure out, well, who's going to head up this group? So we all looked at each other, and I nominated Marianne Udall, and Marianne Udall nominated me. And so initially, we became co-chairs, but we knew that there was a lot of work in front of us, and this was just a new beginning.
And so, Judy, you are now heading this effort up. What has it taken to get to this point?
To be honest, Christy, it is about having an amazing group of people working with us, people with a lot of passion and a lot of dedication, and the fact that they're really focused on how do we lift people, how do we lift parents, give them the resources and the things that they need to help their children be school ready.
Do you find that you are finally getting traction in the public, that people are starting to understand the importance of what you're doing?
I do indeed. I think over the last few years we've really seen early childhood come onto the radar screen in a very real way. You know, at the very beginning we actually tracked and looked at how much early childhood was in the media, how much it was in the public discourse, and it was a disturbing little. And then we spent a fair amount of time trying to change that and to have the conversations. And the whole development of the Great Start Network was a huge piece of that, building this both from the top down at the state level and also bottoms up from the community level.
So you made that recommendation that the Great Start office should be made in the state of Michigan. What went into that decision?
Well, the Office of Great Start came about, honestly, because as we looked at the many aspects of early childhood and what was going to happen, it was very apparent to us that the majority of resources are with state government, as you would expect. And even though, as this initiative started, it started from the standpoint, and the reason we became a public-private initiative is the fact that government can't do this alone. Government still can't do this alone, and it's going to take everybody to be a part of this. So we looked at it and we said, with so many resources at play, so many programs and serving young people, but us not really necessarily getting the best outcomes with those resources, that we needed an inside player. We needed an Office of Great Start within government to focus on aligning, coordinating, streamlining those services for people in local communities.
Marvin, are you seeing that public-private partnership working very well now?
I think that it is working, and I think that we're trying to also work out the kinks, because I think that trying to get more of the public involved in the partnership, as well as trying to convince the government that it's not just about early education, but it's about the total development of the child in terms of social and emotional health, in terms of physical health, and in terms of parent health, because without a healthy parent, you probably are going to be challenged to have a healthy child. And also with giving parents the kind of support and power that they need to really be advocates for their children.
And really, if you look at it, the Office of the Great Start, they're making sure that our assets and what we're doing they're accountable for what's happening in the state. But what you're also working on, Judy, is you're looking at quality assurance and different programs like that. And so that really does work in tandem.
That's very true. We are looking at innovation, and if we're going to build a system in Michigan, there are many needs. For example, one of the things that we're working on is getting a quality rating and improvement system for early learning in Michigan, because we can have all the taxpayer money in the world going into programs, but we really don't have too many tools that are telling us whether we're getting any return on investment for that. And if we just look at the statistic that says a third to a half of children are arriving in kindergarten not prepared, one could argue that maybe those programs could work better, or if we align them more, that maybe we would get further or our return on investment would be greater. So our work is to do innovation, to do technical assistance, support those local communities that want to look at their community, understand what their local needs are, what their local assets are, and what they have to do to support their own children, and then do the advocacy and some of the other things that are important to building those pieces that we don't now have in a system.
Important work indeed. Judy, Marvin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the second leg of Michigan's Early Childhood Big Three is the Office of Great Start, which is part of the Michigan Department of Education. We caught up with Deputy Superintendent Susan Broman, who leads the state early childhood efforts in her office, and talked about the new office and the challenges ahead.
The Office of Great Start was first talked about in Governor Snyder's education reform message. In July of 2011, he issued an executive order actually forming the Office of Great Start within the Michigan Department of Education. The intent of the office is to coordinate and integrate early childhood services for children prenatal to age 8. He identified 4 outcomes that we should be working on. The first one, children are born healthy. The second, children are developmentally on track. The third, that children are ready for kindergarten. And the fourth, that they're reading proficiently at 4th grade. This year, the number one priority is expanding the Great Start Readiness Program. We have conducted a longitudinal study of the Great Start Readiness Program for the last 20 years. And what we have found out with our Michigan program is that kids come to school ready to learn. They graduate on time. They don't repeat grades. They're better at math and they're better at science. The biggest challenge, there's multiple challenges. Resources, obviously, is a challenge. Culture change about thinking about early learning as beginning at birth. The other challenge that is really difficult is that we have to work across multiple departments and multiple services. This is not simply an education issue. It's a health issue, it's a social issue, it's a family support issue, and it's a parent education issue. It's, as I call it, herding the cats, so that we're all working on behalf of children, and that means breaking down some of the silos that have existed between departments and between programs so that our services work for families and children. One of the important things that I think people need to keep in mind is pay now or pay later. We can invest early on when the return on investment studies indicate that it's one of the best investments, or we can wait until problems arise and then pay for treatment or rehabilitation, or in some situations, incarceration. People are becoming more aware of the importance of early childhood. And so we're really happy that people are starting to understand that learning begins at birth. So I think we're on the trajectory to actually making a significant difference for young children in the state of Michigan.
An agenda this big requires some heavy hitters, and that's where the state's business community is making its voice heard through the Children's Leadership Council of Michigan. 2 council members, Elisa Martina, publisher of Metro Parent Magazine, and Paula Cunningham, president and CEO of Capital National Bank in Lansing, join me now to talk about why many Michigan business leaders are making early childhood development a priority. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Paula, let me start with you. Talk to us about the council, how it came into being, and who's on the board.
It's a phenomenal group of business leaders throughout the state of Michigan, and actually it came into being as a result of a grant that Warren Buffett and Bill Gates came to Michigan, wanted to invest in Michigan, and provided some startup funding, and then 16 business leaders got together, and that council, that's the steering committee, and the council grew from there, and there are about 120 business leaders now, and the council is actually chaired by Doug Luciani, who is the CEO and president of the Grand Traverse Area Chamber of Commerce, and Deb Dingle, who is president and CEO of D2. So it's a phenomenal group of people who are doing great work throughout the state.
A great group, a very powerful group of people as well, very influential. So Elisa, let me ask you, the council this year was very instrumental in influencing Governor Snyder's agenda with early childhood. Tell me how that came about.
Yeah, you know, we worked very closely as a council, and we pushed very, very, very hard to expand the Great Start Readiness Program, GSRP. And we've seen some really good results with it. We're very proud of our efforts. We know that a comprehensive evaluation of this program shows that it leads to student achievement, it leads to long-term staying in high school, and less dropout rates, possibility of entering college, higher employment rates. So we're very, very proud. The work's not done yet. There's still 29,000 4-year-olds that are eligible to go into preschool education development programs, and we don't have enough funding. So we have been working with the governor. We've spoken to him. He knows about it, and we're very happy to say that we've informed him. And his budget, his executive budget proposal, and he's included $65 million expansion in the fiscal year 2014 and a $65 million expansion in fiscal year 2015, but our work's not done yet. We've got a lot of work to do.
It is a large commitment. Paula, help make the bridge for people when you see business leaders. Why are they so invested in early childhood? Make the economic link of what it can do for our state.
Oh, absolutely. You can approach this either from a very selfish standpoint in terms of wanting to have a pipeline of workers for the future. Every business person out there is looking for talent right here in the state of Michigan. We don't want to have to recruit talent from outside of the state. The best way to assure that we have that talent is to start early and grow our own pipeline of talent, of educated, well-socialized young people that we can select from. The other is the ROI. I mean, it's just huge. There's not another initiative out there, another program out there where you can see how great the ROI can be as you can with early childhood. When you invest in a child earlier on, you save dollars in terms of special education, you save dollars in terms of crime, in terms of health care, all sorts of other areas. So there is a tremendous ROI when you invest in early childhood.
It's a long-term investment, Christy, and it's really, really important. For every $6,700 we put in now, we see a long-term, lifetime societal return of $67,000. $67,000. That's a 10-to-1 return on investment. That's huge.
So you see that return on investment, and you've seen a lot of the studies that have come out, and you would think that now finally early childhood development initiatives, education, it's finally in the news cycle. It seems so much more so over the last couple of years. So Paul, let me ask you, are lawmakers getting the information? Is it clicking with them because they're the ones that are enacting the policy?
It's beginning to, and that's why I would say kudos to the business leaders throughout the entire state of Michigan, as well as to the educators and those who have been fighting this battle for a very long time. When you get a coalition of people coming together for the same cause, the same purpose, there's nothing that we can't accomplish, and you're seeing that. You see not only do you see the business leaders out in front of the legislators with testifying in front of the hearings and the different committees, but you also see criminal justice folks testifying. You see early childhood people testifying. So we've come together. There's a great coalition of people who are putting this in front of because they understand, putting this in front of all of our policymakers. They understand the impact that it'll have, long-term and short-term impact that it'll have on our investment in the state of Michigan. And, you know, we applaud the governor. He gets it. he gets it. And the timing is perfect for everyone to come together, and everything's about timing. So legislators are getting it, the business leaders are getting it, the governor's getting it. This is the time.
Okay, but Elisa, you say there's still more things that have to be done. So give me a long-term for the council. What are some now long-term goals that you're looking at now in the next year and a half, 2 years?
Oh, well, we believe there has to be more funding, and we are very committed to measuring the proof of success. We're very committed to measuring the return of the investment of the taxpayers' money, and we're very committed to working with legislators so that they understand it. Not all legislators do understand the importance of the brain science. It's phenomenal what's going on there in terms of brain science and how it informs our decisions about what we need to do with early childhood development. And we need to really work harder and harder to really make sure that all the legislators turn this into the top priority, because a strong childhood development means a strong economy. It's really about a long-term investment that protects our state, protects our children, and it has to start with our efforts now. And everybody working collaboratively. We've got the Office of Great Start, and we've got the ECIC, and the Children's Leadership Council, and the governor all working together. We need to get everybody on board.
And it can change the face of Michigan, ladies.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, these three strong groups working hand in hand would help any governor advance an early childhood agenda. That's assuming the governor has an early childhood agenda. Does Michigan's Governor Snyder have an early childhood agenda? Indeed he does. Governor Snyder, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
It's great to be with you. Important topic.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Why is investment in early childhood so critical?
Well, it sets the foundation for a person's life in many respects.
So when you became governor and you took a look at Michigan and you saw that there were a lot of programs for early childhood investment, but it didn't really all come together and you still had children who weren't doing well when they finally got into school, what was the decision process that you came to that this needed to be an agenda item?
Yeah, well, we had to deal with a lot of challenges, as you know, Christy, in terms of the budget deficit. The state was a mess, and we had to work through that. And then as we've started to improve, and the comeback in Michigan's been taking place, and I've looked at the budget for this next year. Okay, now we have a budget opportunity to say, let's deal with all these kids on the waiting list for early childhood. Let's get them in programs that we can really help them out. So the goal over the next 2 years is to essentially wipe out the waiting list.
When you say that kids aren't ready, how does that translate to the education system? What kind of burden are we looking at when we have these kids come into the system, and even when they get to college and they're not college ready?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of data out there. This is something that's been studied nationally and in Michigan, and one of the groups put out a study that showed how many times young people were repeating grades in like first, second, and third grade. And think about that. I mean, to repeat a grade at that level, that's not putting in a path for long-term success. And a number of these kids weren't repeating once. They're repeating twice, and in some cases 3 times.
What is the correlation between early childhood investment and the business community in Michigan? How does that affect business?
Well, it does, because that's the workforce of the future. That's the talent of the future. We're bringing the business sector to the education sector to say, it's not one or the other, but how do we partner better together? How can government help facilitate a closer relationship to help young people and parents understand where future careers are, what skill sets are needed? Because if you understand those things, you're going to do better in school. If you know what you're looking to do, it helps.
But people don't look down the road that you've got CEOs here in Michigan who are very invested in getting early childhood before kids even get to kindergarten. What's the process or the thought that we're not just talking about K through 12 anymore? We're talking about what?
Well, I call it P20. I've called it that was before I became governor. And what I mean by that is actually prenatal through lifelong learning. Because if you go up through a PhD, you can argue that's 20 years. But it's beyond that. It's recurring education. Again, if you're in a skilled trade, if you're in any field, there's continuing education at that end. But the prenatal piece is if you literally look at it, it's important for before a child's born, are they getting the right food, the right nutrition, the right medical care? Because in some cases we have too much infant mortality or low birth weight that can raise issues later in terms of their educational process. So literally, I call it P20, prenatal through lifelong learning.
How can early childhood investment change Michigan's future?
Well, it just makes the whole system work better. We're talking real kids here, real people. And the real question is how do we give these young people an opportunity to make sure they're growing? There's at least 1 year's growth each and every year they're in the educational system, or even more. And by having that early start done the right way, it creates that platform for success to say, instead of having to catch up or you're behind and you got to find how to catch up, you're right there at the forefront. And hopefully you're a little bit ahead or have some great opportunities to build on, and you can go faster and better.
when we talk about investment in early childhood, you need a number of forces and a number of people to come together to get this done.
Absolutely. It's got to be a partnership, and a very broad-based one, because it should be the educational sector, obviously, but it needs to be parents. It needs to be the business sector. It needs to be the government sector, the nonprofit sector. All of us coming together to recognize our kids are our future. And by doing it right at the early childhood ages, we're creating a platform, a foundation for success at an individual level, which is absolutely fabulous, but for our society. So it's really not about one party doing this. It's about the whole community rallying to these young people to watch them grow. That's exciting. That's cool.
Exciting. That is exciting. I have little ones of my own.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've been able to get that message across?
I think we still need to communicate it, because again, you get pushback, because if I use the budget as an illustration, other people say, well, there's dollars there and they want those dollars. But that's why I put it as a priority, because when I looked at it, it's like, these are resources, again, if we can make sure the high quality programs are there, and there's a lot of opportunity to do that, if we can get people involved, this is something that will have a huge return to all Michiganders. And we should be proud of it, and then we should think about, isn't it great to help kids of that age, to watch them flourish and be successful? That's just wonderful.
Yeah, and it helps them in the long run. And it's also a different mindset of getting people to think about before K through 12. You've got to look at a wide range. All right, Governor Snyder, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to be with you.
Governor Snyder clearly has early childhood development and education on his radar screen, and 3 strong organizations working on the key elements of the Great Start system. One might think that's all Michigan needs to make investment in our youngest learners a reality. But times being what they are and the issues of any state getting more complex, it would seem that it's going to take the proverbial village to raise an early childhood system for Michigan families. Fortunately, there are many other groups who play a significant role in furthering school readiness through early childhood development in Michigan. We've talked about the Michigan Department of Education's Office of Great Start, but other state departments, nonprofits, and foundations are working hard on early childhood issues as well. Alethea Carr is the director of the Bureau of Family, Maternal, and Child Health for the Michigan Department of Community Health. Carol Walters is a founder of the nonprofit Women's Caring Program. And Karen Aldridge Eason is the foundation liaison to Governor Snyder. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Alethea, let me start with you and talk a little bit about the role that health plays in childhood learning and development.
Well, health is key. First of all, infants have to live to be able to experience early childhood education. So we really focus heavily on reducing our infant mortality rate here in Michigan. That's one of the governor's priorities, along with obesity reduction. And we work to reduce the health disparity that exists between black and white infant mortality. In Michigan, for every 1,000 infants that are born, 7 die every year. We're really working to bring that number down. It's higher than the national average, and we're doing that by working to make sure that women are healthy before they're pregnant. It's key for them to have good nutrition, have chronic conditions under control before the pregnancy even occurs. And then during pregnancy, access prenatal care and access it as early as possible. With our infant services, we really look at making sure that women who are pregnant, especially low-income women, have access to Medicaid. That's an insurance benefit that allows women to, who wouldn't otherwise have access to medical care, acquire that care. It also is linked to having access to home visiting services that help pregnant women understand the resources that are available to them, as well as their infants, once infants are born, and helping them to learn about parenting and the important steps in parenting.
There are so many different facets to what the department is doing. So, Carol, why don't you explain for people who don't know, what is the Women's Caring Program all about?
Well, the Women's Caring Program is it's a nonprofit focused on the children from working families, low-income families. So we provide tuition scholarships for children ages birth to 5 for their early care and learning. But the parents have to be working and or going to school. So they're a family that's not eligible for any other state assistance, but still low income, still having a problem having access to early care and education for their children. And we're a statewide organization. We have helped families and clients in probably 81 of the 83 counties in Michigan. And we pay 40% of the tuition for a child to go to child care or early learning for a year.
That's got to be huge for a lot of families, a lot of parents who are struggling to pay those child care bills.
Right. We've been paying 40% for about 15 years now, and it seems to be a figure that really helps, that they can handle the rest of the tuition on their own. But the 40% figure seems to be a major help for a family. And now we've started to use the scholarships actually as an incentive in the centers, because the scholarships are guaranteed income to a provider for a year. And so we're using the scholarship as an incentive to enter into an agreement with the center to have improvements in quality made at that center where the scholarship is provided.
You know, Karen, there are so many different people who are involved in early childhood development and making sure that our kids succeed from birth to age 5 and beyond, and the foundations are a key part of that. How does that work with the programs that are already in place through the state?
Well, the foundations are often partners with state agencies or nonprofits. It's an excellent way for government, nonprofits, and foundations to leverage what are scarce resources sometimes. And so they have been actively seeking partnerships. They also often are able to push some of the issues like quality that Carol referred to, and making sure that in exchange for their partnership that the standards are raised, for example.
And how do you go about working through the governor's office with the foundations that way?
Well, I have a unique role that I work on both sides, both with state agencies and foundations. So when the government is looking at moving a program, say, for example, recently Governor Snyder, had put in his budget $65 million and then another $65 million for early childhood. Some of the biggest advocates for that were foundations. And they can, while they don't lobby, they can definitely advocate and educate. So often they help educate as well, not only provide dollars, but they can help educate the public on how important it is for children to have this great start in life.
They need that great start in life, but Alethea, people might say, well, that's the parents' job. They need to get their kids ready for when they get them to kindergarten.
Well, actually, it's everybody's job. There's so much that has to be done to help make sure that children succeed early and throughout their childhood. One of the things that we do within our department is promote safe sleep, and that means safe sleeping environments for children. That carries over to child care as well as in the home. It really is a partnership. The whole immunizations that are available on a statewide basis is another way that health helps to protect children from conditions that could be harmful or even cause death.
And parents need those resources. Carol, as we wrap up with you, tell me, what are some of the reactions that you're hearing from parents who are being helped in this way with their kids?
Well, it's interesting that they're so excited about the learning that goes on in the centers where they can send their kids, and a consequence also, a positive consequence of the scholarships is the fact that the parents are actually doing better at work, getting promotions, raises, because they don't have, they're comfortable with the fact that their kids are at a center where they can be safe in a learning environment where they're cared for.
And it's so key. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me. Social and emotional development before kindergarten is critical to success in business later in life. A series of 12 PSAs produced by the Early Childhood Investment Corporation address this social and emotional development in young children. An iBook has also been created using these video tips as topics of discussion for facilitated parent workshops and home visits. It's available as a free download in the iTunes store. And here's an example of one of the tips.
Simon says, touch your ears.
A child doesn't know how to tell you what they're really feeling.
When you do play games like this with me, you will also teach me some really important things.
But you can be the one who's there to help them grow.
These teach me how to follow the rules and control my body. That's what I like to tell you, if I only had the words.
For more tips, go to greatstarttoquality.org, and to find a program in your area, go to greatstartconnect.org. Investing in Michigan's future.
In a world of so many issues, how can one assure that early childhood development remains a priority for Michigan? How can we be sure that it isn't just the flavor of the day? Ask any one of our guests and they would say there really is only one way, and that is the power of the people. Indeed, the most important asset any movement has is people willing to talk about it and willing to fight for it. In Michigan, two interrelated forces are making sure that everyone understands why early childhood investment is key to Michigan's strength. And with me now are Alyssa Parks, former Senior Director of Great Start Technical Assistance and Consultation for the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, and two parent coalition leaders, Maria Cook from Clinton County and Anita Schlebach from St. Joseph County. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. So, Alyssa, I'm going to start with you. Tell us exactly what is a parent coalition and why are they so important?
A parent coalition is basically a group of parents that are excited and interested in making their community better for young children. So they're typically parents of young children or they're community members who just want their community to be a better place.
So, Maria, tell me about how many kids do you have?
2.
Okay, so you've got 2 kids. And what are you doing in your coalition in Clinton County?
We have a very strong parent coalition. Most of our members have been a part now for 4 years. We're very invested in our community, and one of the key issues that the parents have identified in my county is to get the word out of what Great Start is. They feel very strongly that there are many parents who are dealing with a lot of issues with their children but don't know where to go or what programs are even available in the area. So one of our big goals has been to get out there in the different groups that they're in and within their individual communities and spread the word.
Anita, are you finding that same issue or that same challenge in St. Joseph County, that you're trying to get the word out?
Yes, I believe in a sense, but I think within St. Joe County in our community, it's very diverse. I'm finding that we are catering to the Amish, to the Hispanic population. So I'm kind of having to go there to meet the needs. And so we have provided different coalition groups, and they all look so uniquely different in what the needs are.
It's amazing to hear all these different stories, Alyssa, different snapshots from around the state, that each of these groups is so very different. But how important is it to make sure that these parents are invested in early childhood development and getting these initiatives pushed forward and getting people to realize that there is help for early childhood education?
Well, right. Who better to speak for the needs of kids than parents, right? I mean, it's the hardest job in the world. And leaders really need to hear from parents because they're the ones that our system is serving. And so those parents are the ones who can really talk about the customer experience of services in their community, what's there, what's not there, what do they need, what's missing so that their children can be ready for school. It's so important for us to involve them and really to follow their lead.
It's got to be very hard to find 2 good parent liaisons like these 2 women right here. How do you go about finding some of those special people to head up those coalitions?
Well, absolutely. You can hear from these 2 how passionate they are about the issue. And so really passion is, number one. But of course, Great Start Collaboratives, who hire the parent liaisons in their communities, they look for someone who's got some fire under them, who's organized, who can engage with all different types of families and really get them involved in the work that works best for them. Parents can be involved in all different ways. They don't have to do all the same types of projects, or they don't have to all talk to their legislators. Some might feel more comfortable calling or emailing, or maybe just helping out with a diaper drive or helping to get the word out about early childhood in their community.
So, Anita, tell me, how many children do you have?
10.
You have 10 children?
Yes, I do.
You must be very busy.
I am very busy.
So why did you then feel the need to be a part of this?
I would believe, because I really believe in that those first years are the most important years. And my husband and I have really invested in those first years of school. And I'm humbled to say that, to find out that I can't do it alone. So I was tapping into different resources to strengthen my family. And so I have used a lot of the services that are within our community. And so I just really make that extra effort to let other people know that you're not alone. There are other resources that you could tap in to help strengthen the family. So I've experienced, my husband, after 20 years of being a machinist, decided we want to do something that we're passionate about. So he changed his degree and now he's an RN, a neonatal intensive care nurse, and we both do what we love. And we've been raising our kids together. It's a team effort. So that's kind of how anymore we're 2 working parents. We have 10 children, so we help each other. And we kind of try to live by example. And just reaching the community, just finding that safety net, and it's so relational. just someone that they can relate to, and I totally understand and I get it that we can't do it alone. We need each other.
Amazing advocates for children. So Maria, you might not be able to find people like Anita who are so that passionate, invested. How hard is it to get other parents maybe involved?
You know, I find that if you build a strong core group in the beginning, it kind of recycles itself. In other words, you get parents invested and engaged in the work, and naturally, because families are dependent on other families and in so many groups, they connect naturally with other people that have that same need and passion that they have, and they bring people into the group. So it's a lot about the networking and the relationships that your parents, that you start with, and then that they take out into their individual groups and bring back to you.
And Alyssa, it just must be so important that parents know that they are, that number one, that there are resources that they can take advantage of, and maybe it's easier for them to find that out from other parents that kind of speak the language.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something, the original purpose for parent coalitions was really about, we need the customer perspective so that organizations that are trying to better serve kids and families can hear from parents. And also we need parents out there talking about the importance of early childhood. An unexpected benefit was that parents, once they got more connected, like Maria said, the core group, they started telling others, and they saw that there was a need for parents to know more about the services that were even available. And so they really took it upon themselves to connect parents to those services, either word of mouth, they create resource directories, they really just go above and beyond to make sure parents are getting what they need.
Absolutely. And ladies, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do, and thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We recently spoke with 2 key state leaders about the importance of investing in families and acknowledging the important role that parents play in guiding the state as it thinks about its priorities. Here's what they had to say.
One of the best things we do is to listen to people. And Governor Snyder is a man who listens a lot. And he really believes parents have great ideas. They just need to be helped to fulfill what their dreams are for the kids.
So when parents come up and talk to us about the needs for children, not only does that resonate on an emotional level, but it resonates also on a legislative level and leads us to, well, this year, I think, increasing the funding for early childhood over $50 million.
It's been great to see the parents step up to say, we're going to invest in early childhood and we want to be part of the process.
So if you want an area where you can, well, feel good about what you did and create a future for our people and know that the money will be well spent, you need to look no further than preschool programs.
We're going to see programs 5 years from now look a whole lot different than what they do today.
Parents have been really proactive as seeking help, and they should be encouraged to continue to do that.
Thanks to Michigan's Great Start initiative, our state has been on the cutting edge of a variety of things related to the early childhood movement. We've talked about many of these things, but one remains, and it plays that critically important role of giving power, or voice, as the case may be, to the people. The Michigan Sandbox Party is the state's leading advocacy force for young children. Its mission is to provide a unified voice for an inclusive movement of Michigan residents who are dedicated to getting a great start in life for all children. Lou Chamberlain is CEO of the West Michigan Whitecaps minor league baseball team. As honorary chairman of the Michigan Sandbox Party, a businessman, and a board member of both the Early Childhood Investment Corporation and the Children's Leadership Council of Michigan, Lou can personally attest to the importance of getting everyone working together in order to hit one out of the ballpark for early childhood. Let's listen to how he sees it.
My name's Lou Chamberlain. I'm proud to be the honorary chairman of the Sandbox Party. I've been involved as a child advocate for a long time, 15 years in one effort or another. And over those years, I've learned so much about the importance of getting kids ready for school and life. I've learned about brain architecture and the effects of stress on the developing brain. I've learned about the impact of a holistic approach to early childhood in preschool education, in child care settings, and so much more, including medical homes for kids, better health care, parental engagement, and education. And just as importantly, I've learned that the economic return on investment for early childhood programs is potentially huge. We need all constituencies pulling together to make real progress for our kids. I'm willing to put my passion and convictions on the line, and I hope you will too. Changing the course of our children's future is entwined with rebuilding Michigan's economy. As a business person, I know this is not only a human issue we're fighting for, but an economic one for the development and growth of our battered state. Starting here, starting now.
And I'm sure my guests here will agree wholeheartedly with Lou. Holly Wingard is the Community Engagement Director, and Sarah Triplett is the Assistant Communications Director for the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, which initiated the Sandbox Party during the last gubernatorial campaign in 2010. They are among a small group guiding this effort to build coalitions in support of early childhood all over Michigan. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate it. So, Holly, are we playing nice in the sandbox in Michigan? Who came up with this clever name, and who all is involved?
Well, I think that what we all know is that politics now is pretty divisive, and we struggle with that on the federal level, and certainly in our state, that it is pretty much one side or the other. But we're very fortunate because early childhood is not a partisan issue. Everyone has children, everyone cares about our children. So it's a great thing to be in really a special interest issue where people are willing to fight and speak up once we give them the voice and the opportunity to do so.
So you have a lot of people as part of this group then?
Absolutely. We see people at events out there, or we have outings where we invite people to come and speak up on behalf of young children, and they're excited to do it. They want to do what's best for their young children, for their grandchildren, for the kids who are in their communities, but we need more and more of them talking to our legislators all the time.
So, Sarah, is there anything else like this in the country?
We actually, in the initial development of the Michigan Sandbox Party, we did find one other group. They were doing what we're calling milk parties. And that is a group in Florida. It's the Children's Movement of Florida. But we really haven't found anybody doing this in the capacity that we've been doing it with the Sandbox Party. And that's really getting into local communities with our 8 Sandbox Party coordinators, working together with other organizations across the state and really building, momentum.
So what are some of the specific activities that you're doing to try to get people involved in getting out there in the community?
Well, we engage people by going to where they are and really getting the word out, helping people to understand why early childhood is important, really thinking through daycare just doesn't happen. And so parenting is not something that people just naturally know about, that people need supports and they need services. And especially our most vulnerable families, they need more support in a lot of ways because they need basic needs. And that's a hard thing when you have a baby and you're worried about basic needs or you're trying to raise your children. So we do a lot of work in local communities. We provide opportunities where people can come and discuss the budget, learn about what's happening in the budget process in the state, and actually have conversations with their legislators. So we invite people to open forums where we provide information and help them raise their voices and ask questions and really tell their stories to the legislators as they make choices.
So then if they can bring their stories to Lansing, let me ask you, Sarah, then what has been the reaction of lawmakers? Are you able to get the Sandbox Party a good voice there?
Absolutely. We are working with lawmakers all the time, and we are really doing our very best to connect with them in many levels.
I think that our legislators have really come around to understand why this is important and have a bipartisan embracing type of thing of this. It's been several years in the making, though. We've really had to work with them. I know that I've spoken with certain legislators that in the beginning said, okay, well, you're going to have to prove this to me because we've gone through a really tough economic time in the past where we were really fighting against cuts and really worked hard with research and with all voices from grass tops, our business leaders like Lou Chamberlain and many, many others with the Children's Leadership Council and all of our advocacy partners throughout the state, both at the community level like the American Academy of Pediatrics, Head Start, United Way, really working together to bring this message forth. And the research is there, they get it now, and are starting to buy in so that we're in a really awesome place where they're investing now. The governor proposed money going into it, and both the House and the Senate are supporting it. And so we're making progress.
So would you say that people are now more aware than ever before about early childhood development? The initiatives are out here in the state of Michigan that should help your cause a lot more, Sarah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're growing momentum constantly, and we're definitely building that strong force. And people are understanding that this is an important issue because strong children really do make strong communities.
So you just had an event recently, Star Power event. Tell me about that.
We did. It was amazing. Sarah is really our organizer behind that, so I can let her talk. But we had a great time.
So tell people, tell people what it is.
Fantastic day. It's our Early Childhood Advocacy Day, and it takes place in Lansing at the Capitol building. So we had 2,000 people strong at the Capitol. So it's parents, children, grandparents, teachers, police officers, everybody really coming together to raise their voice for early childhood in Michigan. So we have all of the different participants meet with their lawmakers, and we also provide some activities to make sure that children are having a fun day. The kids also they did a drawing, and we gave that to the lawmakers as a gift. So it's a really positive event where we have an opportunity to thank the lawmakers for their investments in early childhood.
That sounds like a great day. So thanks so much to Holly and Sarah. So let's go ahead and take a firsthand look at Star Power 2013.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Star Power 2013. Make some noise out here for me.
We could not be more thrilled to have so many of you here today with us. We're here to celebrate children. Today is Kids Day. We're here to talk to our legislators today to make sure that they're helping us to ensure that all of our kids are happy, healthy, and ready for school.
You understand the importance of early childhood development and education and how we want Michigan to prioritize that for all of these beautiful children here. All children deserve early childhood development and education.
Star Power is a once-a-year opportunity for people, for parents, for daycare providers, preschool teachers, anybody who cares about early childhood to come to the Capitol for a face-to-face meeting with the legislators who are making those decisions.
I was hoping to meet with my local representatives just to have them understand what exactly we need to prepare these children for their future, prepare them for primary education, and just to encourage them to get us the funding that we need.
Without advocacy, you don't get anywhere. The teachers can't do it on their own, so if everyone works together, the senators can't do it, no one can.
Coming here today was important to me to have that direct face-to-face contact with the people who represented me that I voted into office.
We bring people from throughout Michigan to the Capitol today to have meetings with all of the legislators who are now in the process of making decisions about spending our hard-earned taxpayer dollars.
I came because I want to make the legislators know what early education is. I know that they know what it is on the line item, but to show.
I wanted our voice to be heard. I wanted to be seen as someone who cares about our community. And I also wanted my children to experience the Capitol.
It's a great program. Anything you can do to get yourself and your kids involved, it's just wonderful. And you'll be surprised. Sometimes it's hard work, but it pays off and makes you feel great.
Great starts here!
Here with me now to talk a little bit more about the Michigan Sandbox Party and what's happening locally across Michigan are two Michigan Sandbox coordinators, Carla Garrett and Jamina Tepley, working each day to anchor strong local coalitions of support for early childhood and to invite people from all walks of Michigan life to be part of this movement. Ladies, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Carla, let me start with you. You're one of the local folks and part of the Sandbox crew. How many coordinators do we have around the state of Michigan right now?
We have a total of 8. And we're all working hard to gather those families and those advocates for young children.
So, Jamina, you're also working in partnership with other groups. Tell us about those groups.
Well, we are working in partnership with the Great Start Collaboratives and Parent Coalitions, which is where I came from. I had been doing advocacy work with the Great Start Collaborative and Parent Coalition in Oakland County for 3 years. We also work in partnership with the Michigan Association of United Ways and the Michigan chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as other partners. And since we are a fairly new venture, we're just starting to meet with those folks and sit down and talk to them about what we can do together to support each other's work, and it's a very exciting time for us.
How important is it to have partnerships like that from those other very powerful groups?
It is very important, especially with the Michigan Association of the Head Start. They was vital to the Star Power, bringing a busload from Vista Nueva's Head Start in Detroit, as well as some more of the local Renaissance Head Start brought participants with them to the Star Power. So we're very excited about the partners.
So, Jamina, as you've taken this new message of invest in early childhood, join the Michigan Sandbox Party, what has been the reaction from people?
For the most part, it's been very excited. There are a lot of people out there who have been wanting to send that message, invest in early childhood, for a long time now, whether they're parents or teachers or pediatricians or anyone who's involved in the care and education of young children. So for them to have a unified voice in Michigan, encouraging increased investment, encouraging supports for every Michigan child to have everything they need to start kindergarten, is really, it's a very exciting and wonderful thing.
And it touches so many people. I couldn't help but notice in the Star Power event the diversity of the crowd. I mean, this is touching so many people. Is that the importance of making sure that you're reaching every voice in Michigan?
That is correct. With our efforts in all regions of the Wayne County, I make sure that we include everyone. I go to different meetings throughout Wayne County, and those, especially down in the downriver areas with the Southwest Solutions, as well as with the Hispanic community, to make sure we're listening and we're taking their needs as important as any other group of needs.
You know, it's important to get the parents involved.
Yes.
Do you find it's tough to get them involved, or once you tell them about what you're working on, it's easier to get them on board? What are some of the challenges you might have?
Well, I'll address the parents first, if that's okay. Our parents in Oakland County have been very involved for a long time through our parent coalition. We're always trying to reach out to more and more parents, and they're excited to learn about it and to get involved in what we do. I would say the biggest challenge we face is that there are only 8 of us. Is that, you know, Michigan has 82 or 83 counties, and there's a lot of people out there. Carla and I only cover 1 county each because the population of the Metro Detroit area is so large, but other coordinators have many counties they're working on, and you just can't be everywhere at once. That's really our biggest challenge.
Do you have challenges in getting parents to come out, Carla?
No, once you tell them about what your goal is and why you're there, and they pretty much are very accepting to the children and the needs of children. If you just tell them, let them know that we're here to support families and children. We want the legislators in Lansing to know that children are first, they're a priority, and learning takes place at the very start.
So I understand that you want to get a 1 million person early childhood coalition together, or yes. Tell me about that.
We're trying hard with all our partners. We want the partners to tell their partners, and we will get that 1 million voices, and we're trying hard. We're collaborating with all the organizations in Wayne County. We're throughout the whole Michigan, and we're just letting them know that we're here first for early childhood, and we're advocating on behalf of children and families.
Jamina, when do you think you want to get those 1 million people, and what would you say to people right now who are watching to inspire them to come out and help?
Well, we think it's an ambitious goal, but 5 years, we think we can do it. You know, early childhood and investing in early childhood is being talked about at every level, by President Obama, by Governor Snyder, by Nobel Prize winning economists, by parents, by teachers, by people, all the people we saw at Star Power the other day. We really think we can do it.
Tell people, finally, how can they be a part of this, the Sandbox Party?
They can go online to our website, the MichiganSandboxParty.org, register online, get the bulletins, the weekly bulletins, and get involved. Get involved in the community. We're out in the community. We're grassroots, ready to serve and to help children and families. So if we at any events, we welcome all of the participants as well as families to join us at all of our events and just get ready for this whole voice and movement for children.
There you go, and a lot of great work. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. Now, while our cameras were filming the Star Power event, we spoke with many parents about why Star Power and early childhood development is important to them. Let's hear what they had to say.
Early childhood is important because if you start at the beginning of life, you won't have problems at the end of life.
It's so important to get that good start to begin with, and then they can excel.
Statistics show that the earlier we get the children in with early learning, early literacy, they develop a love for reading, a love for learning.
The Great Start program here in Michigan, they offer tons of programs and home resources. So I feel that has impacted me greatly, impacted my children, and I feel that's something that's very important.
If you don't like how things are, the biggest way to change is to get out and do something about it.
And you'll be amazed that, hey, wait, I was part of the group that helped to do that.
I just think that this is an amazing program, and just being here, I think it's a fun experience.
I am happy that I did step up and take this role that I'm taking now.
I actually feel proud to be part of an organization that's trying to make a difference.
I never would have imagined that I would be on this lawn with my children, having my voice heard by the people that make the rules, and I just can't believe this is a dream come true.
What a powerful statement about the promise of Michigan's Great Start Initiative and the people and the groups who are making it happen. Without any doubt, early childhood development is coming of age in Michigan. Where it goes from here, only time will tell. But one thing is for certain, our state's youngest learners have an amazing group of committed leaders in their corner. What a great way of raising the next generation of leadership for Michigan. I'd like to thank all of my guests for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the people of Michigan's Great Start Initiative. Learn more about this important work at greatstartforkids.org. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.
This program was brought to you by the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, assuring solid returns from solid investment in early childhood development.